Welcome back. Protectionist measures by coal-bearing states such as Chhattisgarh and Orissa threaten to further worsen the already dismal coal availability situation for the power sector. Chhattisgarh, in its recent energy policy, has mandated that surplus power from generators could be sold to other states only after meeting the requirement of their states. Under the provision of the policy, sale of electricity to other states has to be mandatorily routed through respective SEBs, even though the developers has been given the responsibility to identify the buyers outside the state. A similar norm has been provided in respect of sale of surplus power from a captive unit.
Apart from Chhattisgarh and Orissa, states such as Punjab and Uttar Pradesh are among those set up barriers to flow of electricity outside their state boundaries. This has been specifically cited as practice by state government that could cause problem on policy and regulatory fronts. The Apex Electricity Regulator, or the CERC, in a massive to the center, has taken a serious view of the various instances of barriers to free flow of power and has said that ideally the state government should not intervene in the power procurement and trading of electricity, which is the obligation of the distribution licenses. The suggested course of action includes firming up a uniform policy that addresses adequacy of royalty on the mining of coal on the lines of the free power to hydro state, evolving a national policy on appropriately compensating the project affected families and local areas where the power project are being set up has been mooted. The Power Ministry is pushing for abolition of custom duties on imported coal. The ministry is trying to garner the support of the Planning Commission on the issue, which is expected to be countered by the Finance Minister in the light of the revenue implications. Power Minister Mr. Sushil Kumar Shinde hinted that the government will initiate some corrective measures to reduce the burden on the consumer resulting from the increased price of the imported coal. Power project developers setting up units that are run on imported coal, including 2 upcoming ultra-mega power projects, have raised concern about the hike in the price of imported coal from countries such as Indonesia and Australia. Currently, a 5% basic custom duty is levied on imported coal.
Amid widening deficit and supply of coal against the growing demand, the government has turned down CIL's plea for scaling down current fiscal output target for 48 million tonnes from 452 million tonnes. The Coal Ministry has rejected the proposal of Coal India for bringing down the coal production target.
Fearing that it would not be able to make up to the slippage in output that occurred during the first half of 2011-12, the state-run firm Coal India, which accounts for 81% of domestic production, has asked Coal Ministry to revise the target. Pleading for the revision of targets, CIL blamed the inclement weather, including heavy rains in August-September, for disruption. Coal Ministry rejected the proposal of Coal India for bringing down the coal production target. However, Ministry of Coal has instructed the company to surpass the target, which was possible and required given the paucity of coal. The country's demand-supply gap is likely to reach 142 million tonnes this fiscal, as against the country's estimated output of 554 million tonnes. The Planning Commission has already projected it to touch 200 million tonnes in the next 5 years.
Planning Commission has argued that Coal India's fuel supply agreements with power companies are not bankable as they guarantee only 50% supply and it should provide for at least 80%. If domestic coal is not enough to meet commitments, CIL should import the rest. Planning Commission suggested that the existing 5% duty on coal imports should also be withdrawn and domestic coal prices should be pooled and set 10% higher, and this amount should be shared with power plants having coal linkage from CIL. But the Coal Ministry has rejected Planning Commission's idea. To talk on the subject, we have with us Mr. R.V. Shahi, former Secretary Power, Government of India, Mr. Ashok Khurana, Director General, Association of Power Producers, and Mr. Samvitosh Mahapatra, Executive Director, PwC. Good evening to all of you and welcome to Power News. Mr. Shahi, first of all, I'd like to ask you, Planning Commission has proposed some changing rules to assure more coal supply for power generating companies. But the Coal Ministry has rejected a suggestion that allottees be allowed to sell surplus coal to other users and fears that this move could adversely impact Coal India and give an unfair advantage to those with captive coal blocks. What do you have to say about this?
See, we need to have a via media. It is a fact that as per present law, others cannot sell coal to anybody else. It is only for captive purpose. Coal really is a crisis. Most of the power stations which are running are on critical and supercritical stock level, and the new projects are facing all sorts of uncertainties. Lenders are facing uncertainties, financiers are facing uncertainties. So I think coal problem has got to be fixed. and by magic Coal India cannot produce. In 2010-11, Coal India growth was 0, and most probably in 2011-12 it would be a marginal growth, maybe 1% or may not be even that. So therefore, it is important that in the medium term extra coal is produced, because dependence on imported coal is again raising a number of other issues, because imported coal prices are increasing, dollar rate has become higher, and all these impact will be very adverse on the power sector. So therefore, I go with the suggestion of the Planning Commission with the modification that excess coal could be given to Coal India and Coal India could supply to the power producers.
Mr. Khurana, how do you see Ministry of Coal stand on Planning Commission recommendations?
All policy and regulation must recognize the ground realities, and they should be framed for the overall good of the country. You actually can't have a narrow-based policy. Today, the ground reality is there is a shortage of coal and we need power. Therefore, we need to import. Therefore, policy and regulation need to adjust to these changes. Now, Coal India is not looking at the national good. Coal India is only looking at its own good, that they would suffer. Question is, today country is suffering for want of coal. We have standard power projects for almost about 35,000 megawatt. The choice now in policy and regulation is whether to save Coal India's narrow interest or change the policy framework for general country's good.
Mr. Mahapatra, what is your opinion regarding Ministry of Coal stand?
Some of the measures which I believe should happen in the sector includes allowing private sector to get into commercial mining, which has not been happening, number one. Number two, what we believe is there is a huge issue of technology and process issues which are there in mining in India today. And our productivity, for example, in underground mining is 1/3 of what it is in Australia. So that would have also helped us in increasing the productivity and the mining in the country. So until and unless, be it the sector reforms, be it the offtake issues, be it the productivity issues in the mines are sorted, I think we are going to see this happening for the next 5 to 6 years.
Mr. Shahi, the existing coal crisis is hitting the power sector badly, resulting in higher power tariff, financing of power projects and commissioning schedule. Why couldn't the policy makers foresee the prevailing situation and take proactive measures to tackle this crisis?
The reasons for the present crisis and shortage of coal are in fact two. One is some degree of inefficiency within Coal India system, but more importantly, the environmental ministry's very aggressive postures in the past. As you know that almost 50% of coal mines of the country were declared to be no-go, and this set in uncertainty for almost 2 years. Its effect will continue to haunt us for next 2-3 years. It is only now that GOM suggested and decided that this no-go policy of the Ministry of Environment and Forest was illegal. It didn't have any support of any legislation, and that has caused enormous problem to the power sector and to the economy as a whole. I only hope that new decision and new thinking that no-go area will be given a go-by is worked actually, because even now I understand that even though this policy is being given a go-by, the process is slow. So the process of allotment of coal blocks to Coal India and others should be expedited. Captive coal miners should be asked to produce coal at a faster rate. These are some of the suggestions. But point is that Coal India should also tighten its belt.
Mr. Khurana, Planning Commission has also proposed to set up an expert committee to suggest policy changes to provide relief to the mega projects. What should be an appropriate solution, as many mega projects such as Tata Power's and Adani's Mundra project and Reliance Power's Krishnapatnam project with combined capacity of 15,000 megawatt are at stake?
See, I feel suggestion of a Planning Commission is very correct, because in view of the change in circumstances beyond the control, we need to look at the tariff once again, and that cannot be done by an administrative mechanism. there has to be expert group to actually examine the requests being made by developers, assess how genuine is the request and give recommendation to government regarding how to actually impact these changes, the incidence of these changes into the tariff calculations.
Mr. Shahi, lastly, I'd like to ask you that almost 15,000 megawatt of mega projects are at stake. What should be the policy framework to provide relief to the mega projects in this situation?
According to me, some decision needs to be taken. That if we say that we will do nothing, then not only the present imported coal-based ultra-mega projects would suffer, like Tata's project at Mundra, but also the future ultra-mega power projects which will be based on imported coal would be difficult to get through. People will not come forward to do the projects. So therefore, the type of changes that Indonesian government has made, either at the government level this issue is settled, that such a change should not be made, but if through diplomatic channel we cannot sort this out, then the best thing would be that we should capture its impact and see that some remedy is found out. We cannot say that we will do nothing. If we do nothing, then power stations would not come, and existing power stations, for them, it will be an injustice.
Thank you all for joining us in Power News. And this brings us to an end of today's episode. Do keep sending us your suggestions and views at powernews@zeenetwork.com or call us on 011 405 60701. Do join us next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.